Espera.
Openings
implementing more efficient and effective public policies worldwide. At the Brazilian Federal Court of Accounts, TCU, we believe this is a unique opportunity to expand the influence of Supreme Audit Institutions and promote the creation of a better and fairer world for everyone. The TCU, as the chair of the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, the INTSAI, and SAI20, wishes all participants a successful and productive meeting. Let's build bridges together.
Muito bom dia.
Good morning,
Autoridades presentes, senhoras
dear
e
authorities,
senhores,
ladies and gentlemen.
muito bem-vindos à
Welcome
cerimônia de
to the
abertura
opening ceremony
SAI20
of the SAI20 Summit 2024. It's a group of engagement of the institutions of controlling and of the countries that make part of the G20. Please be advised that this event is being broadcasted live on YouTube channel of the Federal Court of Accounts of Brazil. We'd like to remind you that we're going to have simultaneous interpretation, and you feel free to get your headphones.
عفوا على ما يبدو هناك خلل تقني
No,
فنحن لا
we don't
نسمع
have
في
the sound is not
ميكروفون
working.
السيد.
The microphone is not working.
عفوا نحن لا نسمع في الميكروفون هناك خلل تقني على ما
microfone
يبدو
não está,
هناك
não está
خلل
chegando o
تقني
som aqui.
نحن لا
O áudio não
نسمع
está
السيد
chegando. Minister Bruno Dantas following
كان
the
إذا ندعو
authorities.
بعض الممثلين إلى المنصة هنا. فوتو.
The governor of the state of Pará,
السيد أودر بارباليو فليتفضل مشكورا.
The Minister of
وزير المدن السيد جادر بارباليو فيلو فليتفضل هنا إلى المنصة.
the mayor of the municipality of Belém, Edmilson Rodrigues. The national coordinator of the G20, Minister Carlos Villanova, in this act representing the government of Brazil in the G20.
Maurício Lira.
To open this SAI20 Summit 2024, we give the floor to the President of the Brazilian Federal Court of Accounts, Minister Bruno Dantas.
السيد برونو دانتاس. صباحكم.
I'd like to greet the governor of the state of Pará, dear friend Elder Barbalho, that receives us.
وشكرا على استضافتكم وبالنيابة عنكم أريد أن أشكر وأحيي كل السلطات ولاية بارا الحاضرين هنا. أريد أن أحيي أيضا وزير الدولة للمدن السيد جادر فيليو وبالنيابة عنه أحيي السلطات الفيدرالية المتواجدة
وأحيي the mayor of seu nome, saudar todas as autoridades municipais presentes. Coordenador nacional do G20, Carlos Villanova, Maurício Lírio, e em nome de quem eu quero saudar todos os representantes dos corpos diplomáticos presentes hoje. Saudar também os representantes da troika deste SAI20, a auditora-geral da Instituição Superior de Controle da África do Sul, Tsakane Maluleke, e o controlador e auditor-geral da Instituição Superior de Controle da Índia, Girish Chandra Murmu, em nome de quem saúdo todos os chefes de delegação aqui presentes. Também uma saudação especial aos integrantes do meu tribunal, Tribunal de Contas da União, saudando o ministro Augusto Nardes, e também uma saudação a todos os membros do Ministério Público que atua perante tribunais de contas, e faço esse cumprimento em nome da nossa Procuradora-Geral, doutora Cristina Machado da Costa e Silva. Tá bom. Thanks God, I have the speech in English. I heard there is a problem in the translation, so I apologize to my friends from Pará, but I will have to deliver this speech in English so that our colleagues, our foreigner colleagues, can understand what I'm speaking. Dear Presidents of Supreme Audit Institutions, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the 2024 annual SAI20 conference held under Brazil's presidency this year. It is with great enthusiasm that I address this distinguished group of leaders and experts committed to cooperation for global progress. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all participants present and to the organizers and sponsors who made this meeting possible. We are especially grateful to the government of the state of Pará and to Governor Helder Barbalho for their unwavering support in the organization of this meeting and for their hospitality here in Belém, the gateway to the Brazilian Amazon and the host of the COP30, the United Nations Climate Change Conference for 2025. Warm greetings to the delegations from SAI Angola, Azerbaijan, China, Ecuador, Egypt, Germany, Guinea-Bissau, India, Indonesia, Maldives, Poland, Portugal, Republic of Korea, São Tomé and Príncipe, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and United Arab Emirates for being here, being part of this gathering. Please welcome to Brazil. Under Brazil's presidency and guided by President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the G20 has adopted the motto for 2024, building a just world and a sustainable planet, encompassing an ambitious agenda for sustainability of our planet and human dignity. One of the major objectives of Brazil's G20 presidency is to reinforce global food security. Currently discussed the proposal to create a global alliance against hunger and poverty, which encompasses national, financial, and technical commitments open to participation from all countries. Furthermore, the G20 is expected to clearly define the meaning of a just and equitable energy transition and advance crucial issues related to the implementation of financing mechanisms to combat the climate emergency. As the primary international economic cooperation forum, representing 80% of global GDP, 75% of exports, and about 60% of the world's population, the G20 influences the entire agenda worldwide. In the complex landscape of international negotiation, we should ask ourselves, how can Supreme Audit Institutions contribute to G20 discussions? The relevance of the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, the SAI, and its members in promoting efficiency, effectiveness, good governance, and transparency in public administration is well established internationally. This has been formally recognized by the United Nations at various times, including in the context of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. Although we operate under different mandates, our institutions share the same mission to independently evaluate the allocation of public resources and the efficiency, effectiveness, and impact of public policies. Therefore, they stand out among public organizations due to their unique mandate to promote efficiency, accountability, effectiveness, and transparency in the public administration. This is true in Brazil, this is true in China, this is true in India, this is true in South Africa, this is true in Indonesia, and this is true in all 195 countries affiliated to SAI. With a crucial role in promoting good governance standards, as well as overseeing and evaluating policies formulated and implemented by national governments, Supreme Audit Institutions are essential pillars in this process. In the context of G20, they emerge as vital actors to ensure public action aligns with the needs of the society, sustainable development goals, and international commitments, becoming even more significant when considering these agreements do not constitute legally binding obligations, but rather a voluntary proposal for global governance. Thus, Supreme Audit Institutions can and should contribute to promoting this agenda, acting as genuine catalysts for governmental action, ensuring that governments do their part within the global partnership for sustainable development. Our role is to induce a bit of hard power at the national level in a world of soft power, where the lack of effectiveness already prompts the need for reform in institutions like the United Nations Security Council and the global governance itself, a topic debated in the G20 at Brazil's proposal. The harmonization of the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development envisioned at the Rio 92 conference over 3 decades ago is also at the core of Brazil's G20 presidency. Aligned with these priorities, the SAI20 engagement group is in its 3rd year of operation and will consolidate here in Belém its contribution to countries' efforts to combat hunger and poverty. Not only that, but we will also contribute in assessing the effectiveness of climate actions, especially in promoting just and equitable energy transitions. In recent months, our institutions have worked intensively to position ourselves beyond more than oversight and control bodies of state bureaucracy, becoming strategic actors to contribute to the G20 in the global mission towards a more prosperous and sustainable world. We want the voices of SAIs to be heard both in our national context and in regional and global multilateral governance forums. We know the challenges posed by the climate crisis, hunger, and poverty weigh heavily on the G20 nations, given their economic relevance and historical context. The eradication of extreme poverty is the first of the 17 goals of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development signed by the United Nations members countries in September 2015. The effectiveness of public policies to combat poverty depends on multidimensional approaches that consider not only income, but also other aspects such as food, education, sanitation, and housing. It is equally important to have a specific focus on the most vulnerable groups: children, women, elderly, traditional and indigenous peoples, recognizing their particularities and representativeness in each society. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization report, in 2022, the number of people suffering from hunger worldwide increased by 122 million people compared to 2019, 3 years prior, before the pandemic of COVID-19. The interconnection between climate change and world hunger is a reminder of the urgent need for integrated and sustainable approach to mitigate the climate impacts and ensure food security. Recently, we witnessed a devastating catastrophe here in Brazil, in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, with floods affecting over 2 million inhabitants in 90% of the municipalities, affecting 471 cities and causing suffering, human losses, and incalculable financial costs, including to the agriculture sector. We are being challenged as a nation to review our resilience to extreme events. The climate crisis is one of the most urgent and complex issues that national governments face today, with significant risks to the most vulnerable populations, our country's economies, and above all, public budgets. Supreme Audit Institutions worldwide are at the forefront of a joint effort to improve governance in addressing the climate crisis. Globally, we need governments to overcome the impasses that hinder the establishment of effective climate action financing mechanisms. As example, Brazil itself has not yet regulated its carbon credit market. We know it is crucial to consider each country's specificities and the difficulties faced in transitioning from predominantly fossil fuel-based economies to green economies. We understand the urgency of creating favorable conditions for investments that promote sustainable economic growth for all, leaving no one behind. Thus, we advocate for the establishment of clear and measurable goals, as well as the implementation of public policies that direct resources to initiatives with the potential to generate lasting impacts. To achieve this, it is essential to strengthen transparency and accountability in our actions, implementing effective mechanisms to monitor global climate action financing. In this context, I'd like to highlight once again the relevance of the Climate Scanner, a project conceived by the Brazilian Federal Court of Accounts with the support of the SAI Working Group on Environmental Auditing. Ladies and gentlemen, the project already has the adherence of nearly 100 countries and aims to concretize the objectives agreed upon the Paris Agreement. This initiative will allow SAIs to evaluate governmental actions against climate change and its consequences, with the results to be presented at the COP29 next month in Azerbaijan, next November in Azerbaijan. Recently, Climate Scanner has had its importance recognized as a tool to maximize synergies between existing climate initiatives during the 26th UN SAI Symposium in Vienna. Another point highlighted at this meeting was the need for energy transition initiatives to be equitable and recognize the specific nature environmental issues in our countries. Supreme Audit Institutions are here today in Belém to send a clear message to the G20, and we firmly believe that transparency, accountability, good governance, and efficiency are driving forces in formulating policies to reduce inequalities, hunger, and poverty, and the adverse effects of the climate change on society. We are committed to collaborating to ensure that our common goals of development and global progress are achieved. Minister Villanova, we firmly believe in the importance of the G20 in promoting a more sustainable and inclusive world, and your leadership in this endeavor is crucial. From our side, we at the SAI20 are eager to work together for our planet. I also highlight that the Youth 20 or Y20, one of the 13 engagement groups that make up the G20 social representing youth, will also be meeting here at this convention center starting tomorrow, meeting with these young people who are rightly concerned about the future we are leaving for them should increase our sense of responsibility. Expanding the role of civil society in the process of building public policies and international agenda has been a hallmark of the Brazil's G20 presidency. For the first time, G20 social organizations will have the opportunity to be heard by the G20 Sherpas at a meeting scheduled for the next month in Rio de Janeiro. I will have the honor of representing our SAI20 group on that occasion to convey our message. Dear colleagues, we have great challenges to overcome. I would like to remind you that the deliberations and outcomes of this meeting will be having the potential to positively impact public governance and the lives of citizens worldwide. It is crucial to implement the recommendations and the conclusions of our debates to drive significant changes and ensure that our efforts result in tangible improvements. More than just an engagement group of the G20, our SAI20 is a cooperative forum open to all Supreme Audit Institutions wishing to contribute to the global debate. As we continue the efforts initiated in Indonesia in 2022 and in India in 2023, the growing maturity of our discussions and their potential to influence national public policies becomes evident. In 2025, the SAI of South Africa will take over the leadership of this forum, demonstrating our commitment to society. Auditor General Tsakani Maluleke made a great personal sacrifice, leaving family and friends in Pretoria on her birthday, celebrated last Saturday, to come to Brazil, join us, and loudly declare that South Africa will continue our collective work. Fortunately for us, Dr. Tsakani brought her little Naledi, who is 7 years old and is already being introduced to the Amazon, Governor Helder Barbalho. With a family history of engagement in worthy causes, for sure, the little Naledi has likely already presented her suggestions to the Youth 20 group. Our main goal is to build and send a clear message to the global community, highlighting the importance of our institutions in building a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. Finally, I would like to express my deep gratitude to our colleagues from Muslim countries present here for coming even amidst one of their most important celebrations, the Eid al-Adha. If not for this coincidence, we would certainly have with us our esteemed colleagues from SAI Morocco and SAI Turkey. I make this special mention on behalf of Ms. Isma Yatun and Dr. Alangari, the chairs of SAI Indonesia and SAI Saudi Arabia. And let's open our mind, dear colleagues, and work with the spirit of collaboration and innovation. Let us challenge ourselves to think innovatively and act decisively. Together, we can overcome any obstacles and pave the way for the better future for the coming generations. As the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres stated at the G20 Summit last September, no nation, no region, no group, not even the G20 can face these challenges alone. We must act as a family to save our only planet and protect our only future. In this spirit, I echo this sentiment, reiterating that we, the Supreme Audit Institutions, are part of this family and we are committed to this mission. Thank you, everybody.
Agradecemos ao discurso e às palavras do presidente do Tribunal de Contas da União, ministro Bruno Dantas. Ouviremos agora, na sequência, o pronunciamento do governador do estado do Pará, Helder Barbalho.
Licença, excuse me, the channels for translation are now working, so I will tell you the channels. Portuguese is channel 5, Spanish, Espanol 11, Arabic 20, and English 15. Channel 15 for English. Governor will speak Portuguese, so channel 15. And I will repeat once more, Portuguese 5, Spanish 11, Arabic 20, English 15.
Bom dia a todos e a todas, senhoras e senhores. Cumprimentar inicialmente o presidente do Tribunal de Contas da União e presidente do SAI20, ministro Bruno Dantas, e ao fazê-lo agradecer a deferência da escolha de Belém, a escolha do estado do Pará, a escolha da Amazônia para receber este importante momento em que os tribunais de contas, as cortes supremas de contas dos países do G20 reúnem-se para tratar de temas tão relevantes como sustentabilidade, urgências climáticas, meio ambiente e combate à pobreza e às desigualdades. Cumprimentar ao prefeito de Belém, prefeito Edmilson Rodrigues, cumprimentar ao coordenador nacional do G20, ministro Carlos Villanova, cumprimentar ao ministro das Cidades do Brasil, ministro Jader Filho, cumprimentar em nome da conselheira presidente do Tribunal de Contas do Estado, Rosa Egídia, e do conselheiro presidente do Tribunal de Contas dos Municípios, Antônio José Guimarães, cumprimentar as Cortes de Contas do nosso Estado, cumprimentar os Ministérios Públicos de Contas aqui presentes, seja da União, seja do Estado, quanto das municipalidades, e estender os meus cumprimentos ao ministro Augusto Nardes, cumprimentando aos demais membros do Tribunal de Contas da União. Senhoras e senhores, muito bem-vindos a Belém, muito bem-vindos à Amazônia, muito bem-vindos a esta que será a sede da COP30, a Conferência Mundial das Nações Unidas sobre Meio Ambiente, em novembro do ano que vem. Como governador do Pará e seu modesto anfitrião para este importantíssimo evento das instituições superiores de controle que compõem o G20, esse SAI20, tenho certeza que estamos fazendo uma reunião preparatória para a COP30, que acontecerá no ano que vem. Sob a presidência do presidente do Tribunal de Contas do Brasil, que conhece bem a realidade brasileira, estes dias de reflexão poderão resultar num comunicado aos governos do G20 muito proveitoso e útil sobre os 3 temas centrais deste encontro: o financiamento climático, o combate à fome e a erradicação da pobreza. Quero enfatizar e aplaudir que tanto nos encontros da Indonésia quanto na Índia, este fórum tem mantido os olhos e os corações abertos para a pauta do meio ambiente, como um caminho para a melhoria e o aperfeiçoamento da governança global. E essa postura se repete positivamente aqui em Belém. A boa notícia que trago é que o financiamento climático tem avançado, e é através da governança e não da caridade que poderemos encontrar soluções para combater a fome e, simultaneamente, erradicar a pobreza na Amazônia. Recentemente, anunciei que estamos em fase adiantada para fazermos o primeiro lançamento mundial de títulos de descarbonização, num total de 5 milhões de toneladas, o que será a maior do planeta. No Pará, adotamos uma política de combate ao desmatamento e ao garimpo ilegal, e temos prontos para serem certificadas áreas de florestas capazes de propiciar o equivalente a 156 milhões de toneladas de créditos ambientais jurisdicionados. Essas florestas de pé irão assegurar crédito para a compensação da emissão de carbono e têm o potencial de gerar 156 milhões de toneladas de carbono para garantir a preservação da Amazônia, do planeta e o atingimento das metas da Agenda 2030, um dos marcos das instituições aqui reunidas. É importante destacar que parte majoritária desses recursos será revertido para os povos indígenas, as comunidades quilombolas, tradicionais, ribeirinhas, e os recursos obtidos só poderão ser aplicados no âmbito da gestão estadual na busca da redução das emissões e na agenda de sustentabilidade do planeta. Então, é claro que todas as formas de apoio e soluções governamentais dos países desenvolvidos serão bem-vindos, mas nós, da Amazônia, estamos fazendo o nosso dever de casa, combatendo o desmatamento, protegendo a natureza, reprimindo o garimpo ilegal e desenhando soluções inovadoras e dentro dos maiores e mais elevados padrões de governança cooperativo global. O financiamento climático, a erradicação da pobreza e o combate à fome dependem de políticas públicas inovadoras, de uma sinergia dos mecanismos da sociedade e do mercado.
Conscious of the responsibility with the future of the country. I'm not a naive optimist, but I consider myself a pragmatic optimist because I understand that climate change is transforming the look of global leaders, global corporations, and the leaders that there's no other way for the planet that is not survival. And this window of conscience allows the fight to through new financing ways and markets of problems that seemed impossible to solve. The companies and the government need to neutralize their emissions through the adoption of new technologies that are less pollutant and compensate this emission by carbon credits that have integrity, that correspond to certified forest and are anchored in social, environmental, and the Amazon seal is an invaluable thing. This group can contribute in many ways with adopting mechanisms of governance at global level, on auditing, cooperative audits on climate changes and energetic transition, and other ideas that can appear in these days. To fight hunger, and which have the President Lula as a trailblazer a fight against hunger, not only by putting this topic in the top of global agenda, but for boosting the creating the largest and most well successful the program of Brazil. That's an example for the world. It is an important focus of these days regarding fighting hunger and poverty in the context of biodiversity. We need to reconcile solutions and put in practice here in Pará programs that become reality in social biodiversity. We are already moving forward in the production, generate the integration of biological diversity, the practice of sustainable activities for products from the forest, and the manage of the resources through the knowledge, cultural, and ancestral population. The ancestral population. The Amazon is always remembered by its size, by its forests, by its rivers, by its unique biodiversity. But Amazon is never seen as one of the largest nations of the world. We are 29 million people that live only in Brazilian Amazon. If we move to Pan Amazonia, we are 50 million people, over more than 3 times the population of countries like Greece, Sweden, and almost 3 times the population of Portugal. We need to preserve nature, and that's precisely with bioeconomy that we can ensure the sustainability and the survival. The fight against hunger, poverty in this nation called Amazon. I'd like to thank everyone for choosing Belém to hold this summit. Greeting a very fraternal Minister Bruno Dantas on behalf of all here present. I consider this a kind of preparation, just a teaser for COP30, because this is precisely the spirit to gather visions from all over the world to discuss the planet and together build a better future. Welcome to Belém, welcome to Amazon, and I'd like to invite everyone so they can be with us in these days and come back here next year for COP30, the COP of the forest. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Governor Aldo Barbalho. And to take the speech, we'd like to invite the Minister of Cities, Jade Barbalho Filho. Eu vou falar em português. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'd like to start greeting the President of the Federal Court of Accounts and the present President of the SAI20, Bruno Dantas. I'd like to greet the Governor and the host, Elder Barbalho, the Governor of the State of Pará. I'd like to greet, on behalf of all women here present, the First Lady, Daniela Barbalho. I'd like to greet the Minister of the Federal Court of Accounts, dear friend Augusto Nardes. I'd like to greet the Mayor of Belém, Edmilson Rodrigues. I'd like to greet the National Coordinator of G20, Carlos Villanova. I'd like to greet uh, the, the head of the State Court of Accounts, Nome Gigia, and on her behalf, I'd like to greet all the employees of the court and also Antonio Zé Guimarães. On his behalf, I'd like to greet all the employees of the CCM and all the authorities here present. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to my land, to my city, Belém do Pará. It's with a great honor that I'm here representing the Minister of Cities of the federal government, one of the main bodies of the federal government of President Lula, which is related to human development in our country. As part of this operation, it's mandatory to register, highlighting the effort of the implementation of new public policies, having the Federal Court of Accounts as an independent body and with a historical of good services to the country, so that all the processes are in the legal parameters. The SAI20, ladies and gentlemen, develop a relevant role in the execution of the commitment of the G20. At the same time, President Bruno, it offers support for the objectives of sustainable uh, goals. It stimulates the dialogue and exchange of experience between the countries that are members that bring more deep discussions in terms of governance between the leaders of the G20. Doubtless, the SAI20 has contributed expressively in the defense of policies that prioritize climate actions and sustainable development and the bettering of the life. And for this reason, I'd like to highlight the actions which were directed for the Minister of the Cities uh, regarding the tragedy which happened in the Rio Grande do Sul, which dramatic images spread all over the world. This occurrence reached millions of thousands of people, and it took and made us to face the challenges which were imposed by the climate change. We have the commitment to reconstruct the housing, and it has, as President Lula has asked, it's important to highlight that concerning um, the development of human, the Minister of City is in focus using the program Minha Casa, Minha Vida, one of the biggest housing programs in the planet. The sanitation, and because they contribute outstandingly to better the life of the Brazilian people and make and protect the environment. In December 2023, Minister Nardes, in the second ministerial meeting
about the climate change, we released together with the Mayor Edmilson.
At the occasion, 64 nations, including Brazil, signed this commitment. It was the consultation and collaboration with Villanova as local leaders and regional leaders in the planning, financing, and implementation and monitoring of the contributions nationally determines the NDCs as requested by the Paris Agreement in March this year. The first World Forum on Climate Identification, organized by the French government, collaboration with the program of the United Nations for the Environment. So it's indispensable sustainable. We need to ensure the adequate sewage treatment, to use quality water and use renewable energy and boost our sustainable economies. The Amazon cities need to invest in projects that increase the resilience of their structures and the climate changes. Brazil is committed in, transforming to policies in large scale, they were recognition as a power that do not commit the urban growth. We work very hard so our cities are more green, resilient, and sustainable in a way to ensure a better future for all Brazilians. Ultimately, I register a sincere thanks for the support and collaboration in our journey to more sustainable urban development and inclusive. And again, welcome to my Pará. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the words of the Minister of the City, Jade Barbalho Filho, and we'd like to invite to his speech the Mayor of the Municipality of Belém, Edmilson Rodrigues. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our city, the capital of the Amazon, Belém do Pará. Thank you a lot, the President Lula, for organizing the process of the repositioning of Brazil in the worldwide. And the exercise of intentional exercise of protagonism, and a protagonism that targets to put it in focus in international debates, the respect to the sovereignty, and at the same time, the relationship of solidarity among the peoples, nations, and territories. What shows an advance of the democratic experiences in each country in the world. This action, intentional action with a civilized character that brings the members of G20 to Belém. And I am, as a municipality authority, I recognize the importance, and I would like to thank all of you in here, especially to our Minister of the City, Jada Filho, which represents the federal government, and also Dr. Carlos Villanova, that has a fundamental role, which is to visualize the logistics to the holding of um, events that will bring to Belém with the 20 most rich that makes part of this net, and some other countries that aggregate in this international debate. President Bruno Dantas of the Federal Court of Accounts, it's an honor to receive you, and I wish you have success, because to talk about democracy, it's impossible to think democracy without the controlling that the state bodies develop, so that the development is really sustainable, that the resources are applied correctly in favor on behalf of we have been developing as a conception of sustainability that consider the economic dimension, social dimension, cultural dimension, and political dimension, and some other dimensions of sustainability. I would like to very humbly to make a reference to someone which is not who is not here anymore, who passed away yesterday, Frei Ezequiel Simeão do Rosário. I pay this tribute to him because young of 34 years old, who was born in the interior of the state, in the municipality of Altamira, and being a Catholic here, act as together with the population, helping people who live, homeless people. It's one of the most vulnerable social segments. He was part of the municipal committee that was established here in Berlin as a fight against poverty and to guarantee the dignity to this population for some reason live without housing. So Frei Ezequiel passed away. The topic of this meeting is the fight against hunger, poverty, and at the same time, the climate crisis. I believe that when we talk about the work um, of with humans for any reason and almost always provoked by poverty and live on the street, this is a very excellent tribute. And at last, there are two thinkers, one who is European, Sartre, and one Brazilian thinker, Milton Santos, that asked me to reflect on a very important topic, which is the concept of Sartreano, practical and inert, that was developed in the perspective of a Brazilian genius, Newton Santos, as dynamic inert. I use this notion, this categorization of dynamic inertia to express that the relationship to my country and to the Amazon in the economic dynamic worldwide. To my mind, to my assessment, the dynamic inertia has to be changed because today there is a theory that prevails, a theory that was created by David Ricardo, which is the theory that the comparative advantages. But there is another theory for the 20th century developed by Gunnar Myrdal, this Swedish, that talks about the vicious cycle of the poverty. These two theories, they need to be reflected critically because it has our role in the Amazon has been serving mineral resources, exporting commodities, which makes us not to break the poverty cycle, uh, prevents us to have the resources from the nature, prevent us to generate resources here, to diminish the misery and the poverty in Brazil as a whole. But Amazon, particularly in the case of the state of Pará, practically what we produce are commodities. And there is something aggregated, which is more, you need to know that you from other countries, all the exporting of primary resources, all 100% don't pay any fee. We sell energy, we sell natural products, we export our richness, and we don't receive any fee to help in development and to fight against the hunger. Poverty is not necessarily makes people be without dignity, but extreme poverty. Acabou. The extreme poverty is something unacceptable. So all the authorities have said they talking about the importance of a new path to be built. Our government has talked about the policies. Our minister has mentioned our policies, and everything has contributed. In 2021, we had 2022 a 49%. With President Lula, we have decreased this number in living with hunger, 14 million less, but we still have 19 million people suffering from hunger all over Brazil, and the state of Pará has less than 49%. We have advanced, but this is not acceptable that the state that today export mineral and one of the biggest in the world and many other products has placed us in the front of exporting country. It's not acceptable that half of the people is living in poverty and one part live in extreme poverty. Our local efforts and the federal efforts are real, but there is something that needs to be done. If the blanket is short, how to make it bigger? It's possible to make it bigger with innovation, respect to the sovereignty, but it's not possible to keep a situation where the process we need to make the economy more primary, and we need to stop uh, assuming the whole of role of exporting Mm,
Policies of Agora Belém of fighting hunger. Today in Belém, practically there is no people of fighting hunger because we create a basic income that, with the help of Bolsa Familia from the federal government, could give to the capital city less degrading conditions. But I talk about structural changes. The efforts are being made, but the international debate, must talk about the nations that can enable that with respect to the sovereignties, the countries can develop completely. So the alternatives, technological alternatives, innovations are also linked to fighting hunger, the fight poverty, and the affirmation of democracy, to the development that's really sustainable. That means the preservation of nature, the respect to nature, but means before anything the right to life with dignity. I'm sorry because I'm emotional, the emotional way of talking about this topic, but because I know that G20 fulfills this role, and there are nations that are very rich. One of the largest GDPs. Brazil today is one of those great country. One of the is within. Russia is the fourth largest GDP. Brazil is one of the 10 biggest. Not only GDP we're talking about, but the relations between those GDPs, so that some don't have the right to destroy the ecological balance, and keeping a good standard of the peoples and other produce richness with a lot of work, exporting energy, and living in degradation and poverty. These people. Thank you. I thank the mayor of Belém, Ms. Rodrigues. Now we'll listen. We hear from the national coordinator of the G20 and representative of the Brazilian Shepherd G20, Minister Carlos Villanova. Will talk about the lining and the collaboration between the agendas of SAI20 and G20 for the global progress. I'd like to ask my bosses to talk in English. Vossas Excelências, Bruno Dantas, presidente do TCU. Sua Excelência, Éder Barbalho.
Your Excellency, Mr. Jader Barbalho Filho, Minister of Cities. Your Excellency, Edmilson Rodrigues, Mayor of Belém. Honorable ministers and delegates from the G20 and the invited country's Supreme Audit Institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our G20 Sherpa, Ambassador Maurício Lírio, it's a great honor to address you at this session of the SAI20, the engagement group that brings together Supreme Audit Institutions. Engagement groups play an essential role in enabling the G20 to fulfill its mission of giving voice and agency to actors beyond the executive branches of member countries. Within the G20, we have groups led by civil society, the business community, unions, academia, and think tanks, and also engagement groups led by state bodies other than the federal executive branch, such as SAI20, J20, Urban 20, and Parliaments 20. Under the Brazilian presidency and hosted by Minister Bruno Dantas, we have the privilege of assembling the highest bodies of audit institutions from around the world. I extend my congratulations to Minister Bruno Dantas and his team for inviting our G20 Sherpa team to address this distinguished group. Let me also thank Governor Barbalho for welcoming us to the beautiful state of Pará for these and many other G20 events, such as the Tourism Ministerial Meeting to be held in Belém next September. Ladies and gentlemen, Brazil assumed the G20 presidency in December 1st, 2023. Presiding over the group is both a great responsibility and a unique opportunity for us. We will host more than 120 meetings in all regions of Brazil, culminating in the Leaders' Summit in November 18 and 19 in Rio de Janeiro. Brazil is proud to be the third of a sequence of 4 developing countries chairing the group since the end of 2021. We build upon the successful presidency for Indonesia in 2022 when the SAI20 was established, and in India in 2023. We look forward for the presidency of South Africa in 2025. The world is in a dire situation. We face multiple crises that exacerbate each other, requiring more international cooperation, not less. Among the most pressing challenges we face are persistent hunger, poverty, and inequality. Armed conflicts with catastrophic humanitarian consequences, widespread setback in living standards, inflation and debt vulnerabilities, high volatility in food and energy prices, and a climate crisis that is no longer a distant threat, but a present reality. All these challenges are amplified by old and new geopolitical tensions and old and new conflicts. While these crises affect us all, they do not affect us equally. Developing countries bear the brunt, and even within countries, it is the poorest who suffer the most. As President Lula often argues, if we had to summarize the current global challenges in a single word, it would be inequality. Under the motto, Building a Just World and a Sustainable Planet, Brazil has defined 3 general priorities for its G20 presidency. First, the articulation of a decisive global alliance against hunger and poverty. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, around 735 million individuals currently face hunger, and 2.4 billion face moderate or severe food insecurity. Today, approximately 150 million children under 5-year-old face hunger. Together, the population of all starving children under 5 would represent the 9th largest country in the world. It's not acceptable. To help reverse this course, Brazil created a G20 task force to launch a global alliance against hunger and poverty, bringing together the Sherpa and finance tracks of the G20. The alliance will take concrete steps to mainstream a set of established domestic public policy instruments that have proven successful in developing countries, including targeted cash transfers, school meal programs, support for family farming, single registry systems for low-income persons and families, and social security mechanisms. The second initiative I would like to highlight is the G20 response to climate change. Humanity has until the end of this decade to prevent global temperature from rising beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius, above industrial levels, an outcome that would bring unacceptable risks for future generations. Many countries are already facing the tragic consequences of climate change. Brazil has witnessed the loss of 173 lives in the unprecedented flood in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. A somber future has already arrived. By bringing together the world's largest economies, which account for 3/4 of global greenhouse emission, the G20 can be a catalyst for partnership, high-level coordination, and new policy consensuses. The third priority of Brazil's G20 presidency is to reinvigorate multilateralism and promote the reform of global governance institutions. There is a growing perception that key institutional organizations, such as the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Trade Organizations, and the United Nations, are in urgent need of reform. The current context of polarization and distrust, exacerbated by the conflicts in Ukraine and Palestine, weakens the very institutions designed to uphold international peace and security and promote global prosperity. The lack of representativeness further undermines their effectiveness and the legitimacy of their decisions. Only with a reinvigorated multilateral system can peace, stability, and sustainable development be attained. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased with the first 6 months of our G20 chairmanship. The overall priorities were well received, especially the emphasis on promoting development and reducing inequalities. Our push on climate change and global governance reforms has also been met with widespread support. The Brazilian government also wants its G20 presidency to be notable for its openness and engagement to engagement groups. For the first time in the G20, we will hold a joint Sherpa engagement groups meetings well ahead of the summit. The meeting will take place in Rio de Janeiro in July, when we will receive recommendations from all groups. We look forward to receiving the contributions of SAI20. We will also host for the first time the G20 Social, a major event to be held on the eve of the Leaders Summit in Rio, giving voice and visibility to civil society. Having the SAI20 in our debate enable us to address these challenges together. I must congratulate you, Minister Bruno Dantas, for the agenda you chose for the SAI20 discussions, from multidimensional poverty to climate change and the energy transition. These topics are fully aligned with our G20 priorities. Please count on the Brazilian government to help build a successful SAI20. The time has come for the G20, together with SAI20 and all engagement groups, to make their contribution to a serious discussions on the current global crisis and to put sustainable development back at the center of the world agenda. Thank you very much.
Nosso agradecimento ao ministro
Villanova, the national coordinator of the G20 and representing the Brazilian chapter in the G20. Now, we're gonna have the official registers of the meeting of the SAI20 2024. For the first register, we'd like to invite the delegates here present and get together with the representatives of our table. The ceremonial of this table will help you in the positioning. During the first registers, we'd like to the rest of keep you seated. Keep your seats. The chiefs of the delegations.
Cadê o roteiro impresso?
Não tem isso aqui, não tem. Tem, tá por aí, tá por aí.
Porque tem tudo isso aí, cara. Isso aí que ele falou, tá tudo ali, tá tudo lindo. Baixa mais isso aí.
Não, tá lendo, é.
Bota aqui, pô, pra gente ler.
Esse aqui não tem, pô. O inglês não tem.
Levanta aí, rapidão. Levanta, cadê?
Essa confusão que deu aí, bicho. we invite to the stage the representatives and the auditorium that come to the front of the stage, have a position with the help of our ceremonial. Please, all the presents here, come to the front of the stage and have a position. People from the ceremonial will help you.
Of the whole group. So everyone present in the auditorium, please position in front of the stage.
Encerra-se neste momento.
This moment, and the opening ceremony now will have a short break of 15 minutes, and we'll start the meetings and plenaries in the room just beside this auditorium. Any questions can be clarified by our support staff. Thank you, everyone, for your presence. Have a nice
Welcome to the SAI20 statement session. We hope you all arrived safely. We are thrilled to have such a distinguished assembly of leaders and experts ready to discuss topics that will drive positive change and innovation in our field. Your presence here signifies a shared commitment to excellence and progress, and we look forward to the invaluable contributions each of you will make. We have chosen this city, Belém, in the Amazon region to host this meeting so you can experience the forest around us. Imagine what the world would be like without this magnificent nature that surrounds and sustains us. It is imperative that we protect our environment and preserve it for future generations. Our summit continues in this plenary today and tomorrow morning, where we will engage in crucial discussions that aim to shape the future with our collective vision and leadership. Speaking on behalf of the former SAI20 2023, it is my privilege to invite the Controller and Auditor General of India, Girish Chandra Murmu, to address us. Please, Mr. Murmu.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, namaste and greetings to all. It is my honor and privilege to address this august gathering at this third SAI20 Summit. Just 3 years old, SAI20 was established within the G20 architecture by SAI Indonesia. The founding of SAI20 stems from a recognition of the role of Supreme Audit Institutions in promoting efficiency, accountability, and transparency in public administration. In this short span of time, SAI20 has established itself a dynamic and robust group committed to ensuring good governance in the realization of G20 agenda. This forum serves as a strategic partner in furthering good governance. A steadfast feature of the SAI20 has been the choice of powerful agendas, themes that are recognized. We are standing at the crossroads of remarkable opportunity and formidable challenge. In the aftermath of COVID pandemic, SAI Indonesia chose the theme of global health architecture, sustainable energy transition, and digital transformation in the spirit of recover together, recover stronger. During India's G20 presidency, as chair of the SAI20, we had chosen the theme of blue economy and responsible AI, epitomizing the value of India's overreaching theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the oneness of the earth, its people, and their future. While the oceans unite the globe in providing sustenance, employment, connectivity, and resources, it is artificial intelligence that brings us together through a global network of shared data, technologies, and capabilities. By themselves in interaction with one another, both hold immense potential to contribute to the betterment of humankind. And today, we are gathered here to deliberate the critical theme of climate finance, inclusive climate transition, and multidimensional poverty, chosen by our current chair, SAI Brazil. Themes deeply connected to survival of the present and future generations. They explore the intersections of equity, finance, climate action, scarcity, and global sustainability. Our chosen themes, all related to sustainable world for our future generations, bear testimony to consistent agenda despite the pattern changing hands. Before proceeding further, I thank our chair, SAI Brazil, for the carefully conceived agenda that draws upon the strength of Troika, the past, the present, and the future host countries, ensuring continuity and coordination and enabling smooth transition, building upon previous discussions and agreements. I also take this opportunity to welcome SAI South Africa as a member of the Troika and the incoming chair of SAI20 in 2025. I have been asked to highlight SAI India's contribution and our aspiration for the SAI20 group. When I look back SAI India's chairmanship, there are two thoughts that are uppermost in my mind. One of gratitude and other of fulfillment. Gratitude for the collaborative spirits and strong commitment to good governance that suffuses SAI20, and fulfillment for a very satisfying term where we strive for effectively fulfilling our mandates, especially in two frontier areas. The two compendiums of the Blue Economy and Responsible Artificial Intelligence released during the Goa Summit reflect the productive sharing of our knowledge and best practices, a tangible testimony that in the form of we are not merely representative of our respective countries, we are custodian of our shared future. Our thought-provoking discussion and change of ideas, both at the Senior Officers Meeting and the summit in March and June 2023, enabled us to identify our concerns, priorities, and challenges that we need to collectively contend with. The final SAI20 Summit communique was an inclusive, decisive, and action-oriented document representing the joint commitment to transparency amongst G20 member states. The communique acknowledged the challenge faced by the blue economy globally and proposed measures to address these challenges. These measures include the need for inclusive capacity building, cooperation among SAIs, and the foundation of widely applicable audit products, including international auditing guidelines for the blue economy. The communique also recognized the potential of artificial intelligence as well as its negative externalities and address the ethical and privacy concerns associated with its adaptation. Both themes, their challenges and the way forward, found due coverage in the universally adopted New Delhi G20 Leaders Declaration. To take this forward and drawing upon the valuable insights and resources introduced during the SAI20 Summit held in June 2023, SAI India established a Center of Excellence on the Blue Economy at our International Center for Environmental Audit and Sustainable Development, a recognized global training facility for INCOSAI. Moreover, commencing this year, we are undertaking a pan-India medium-term audit of different facets of the cross-cutting blue economy. Furthermore, we have recently entered into a memorandum of understanding with the premier Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, to partner with them in 4 areas. First, the use of artificial intelligence in audit. Second, audit of AI systems. Third, capacity building. And fourth, knowledge sharing. As chair of BIGITA, our commitment to excellence is evident in 2023-2025 work plan, which includes projects centered on artificial intelligence solutions, audit matrices for the IT audit handbook, and information system security audit. Recognizing the SAI20's commitment to collaborate on sharing of best practices, capacity building, and development of appropriate auditing guidelines and actionable toolkits, we will be happy to share our experience and lessons learned from these endeavors. Dwelling on our aspiration for the SAI20 leads me to recall SAI India's proposal at the Goa Summit, recognizing the synergy between the Supreme Audit Institutions mandate and the G20 agenda, and seeking to realize the force multiplier effect of the SAI20 by acknowledging it as a distinct institutional track with the G20 structure rather than as an engagement group. This we believe will ensure the group's independent structure, precluding all external influences in SAI20 collaborative commitment to optimal utilization of public resources, enabling enhanced governance, efficiency, economy, and effectiveness in furthering the G20 agenda. As an engagement group, SAI20 does not have the leverage and structure warranted by the role and consequently far-reaching impact. In this context, the preceding session by Ambassador Maurice Lairo, G20 Sherpa, on alignment and collaboration between SAI20 and G20, focusing on shared goals for global development and progress is greatly appreciated. The draft communique has articulated the significance and role of SAIs. It is now time to take the next step and for the SAI20 to strive to build consensus for this proposal, thus strengthening the G20 in addressing global economic issues. Moving ahead, President Dantas, I congratulate SAI Brazil's foresight in choosing these priority areas. These foundational issues compel us to recognize that until we address them, the broader goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development will remain as elusive. I would like to reiterate SAI China's view that climate change is one of the aspects of SDGs, which covers all three themes: climate change, tackling poverty, hunger, and accelerating an equitable transition to renewable energy. Climate change is the biggest threat to the fight against hunger and poverty, and climate finance is a catalyst for change, empowering nations to adopt green technologies and foster sustainable practices. We believe that SAIs, with their mandate of stewards of public finance, have the responsibility and the opportunity to ensure that resources allocated to address climate change are used transparently, efficiently, and effectively. These challenging themes warrants tailored methodologies and risk assessment tools. SAI need to assess the efficiency of financial mechanisms and scrutinize overall governance and decision-making process involved in the broad spectrum of public sector climate change policy and financing, ensuring these are accountable, participatory, responsive to the needs of affected communities. UNDP's multidimensional poverty index has three equally weighted dimensions: health, education, standard of living, represented by 10 indicators. India has added 2 additional indicators for material health and bank accounts to gauge India's national MPI, line with the national priorities of improving maternal health, increasing equity, and promoting financial inclusion. Correspondingly, we need to increasingly broaden our audit strategy to leverage data analytics and technology, enabling targeted outcome-oriented recommendations for addressing these challenges. Our world, interconnected as never before, demands our collective wisdom, our shared resolve, and our unwavering commitment to fostering sustainable development. The SAI20, with its collaborative commitment to an accountable, economic, efficient, and effective governance and a strategic partnership with our government, has a crucial role to play. Let our deliberations be guided by empathy, informed by evidence, inspired by the unwavering belief that together we can achieve the extraordinary. I am confident that though collaborative efforts of the SAI20, we will find the strength to build a more inclusive and resilient global community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murmu, for your insightful remarks and your kind words. Now, on behalf of the upcoming SAI20 presidency, I want to kindly pass the floor to the Auditor General of South Africa, Dr. Tsakani Maluleke.
Thank you very much, Minister Bruno. Good day. Good morning to all of the excellencies that are here. Honored guests, I am indeed delighted as the Auditor General of South Africa to be among the eminent members of SAI20, especially in this most beautiful country of Brazil, our partner in many years of cooperation and a country with which we share very strong relations. The Supreme Audit Institution of South Africa wishes to commend the Federal Court of Accounts, the TCU, SAI Brazil, for your leadership during your presidency of the SAI20 Engagement Group in 2024. And we wish you well in the journey to G20 Summit later in the year. The G20 has its origins in the need to respond to the Asian financial crisis of 1997 to 98, Although at that time it was primarily a meeting of finance ministers, the relevance of G20 has increased as the world faced the global financial crisis around 2008. Since those early days of the G20, it has transformed to a forum of state leaders discussing a wide range of topics, mostly related to the Sustainable Development Goals, and goals that we know are relevant to the lived experience of citizens across the world. Like those before us, we aim to maintain our relevance as SAIs by responding appropriately to the challenges that our citizens experience, responding to the expectations of our different stakeholders, and responding to the emerging risks and changing environments in which our audits are concluded. Behind the numbers, the findings, and the audit outcomes are people who are without the basic services that were promised to them by their elected representatives. It's people who are prevented from participating in a country's economy and from realizing their very best potential as individuals and as a collective. These are the realities of our own society as well as in the global context. As SAI South Africa, we continue to pay particular attention through our audits of performance information, which are service delivery reports by public institutions. We pay attention to ensuring that we understand and we reflect the lived experiences of the citizens of our country. Through this work, we provide insights that we believe enable all stakeholders to develop the interventions that will improve citizens' material conditions and ultimately improve their lived experiences. As SAIs across the globe, we have successfully formed a community in which our mutual experience benefits all, in which we support one another, building our capacity and sharing experiences and expertise as professional, independent, inclusive, and resilient institutions able to deliver value and benefits to our governments and to our citizens. And here, surrounded by the beauty in this majestic part of the world, we are reminded that humanity must guard against over-borrowing from our children's future, using too many of the resources that Mother Earth avails to our generation. Our skies and oceans don't have boundaries that limit the unfortunate impact of climate change. They neither have physical, geographic, or generational boundaries. In this context, we are all confronted with the question of how we can play our part in this most complex question: sustainable decision making. As recognized in the SAI20 communique for this year, the ideals of prosperity for all and leaving no one behind speak directly to the significance of what I have actually just highlighted. SAIs are key actors in national and global accountability ecosystems. We're mandated to provide independent, credible, timely, relevant insights that foster transparency, accountability, and institutional integrity. And ultimately, we can contribute to strengthening public institutions so that they can carry out their given mandate as intended. But the key to successfully changing course rests not only in our ability to fulfill our mandate as SAIs, but also on the extent to which we are able to mobilize and bring to bear the collective influence of other players within the accountability ecosystem, so that together we can drive positive change. I look forward to our SAI20 collaboration so that we as SAIs can have an even more direct, much stronger, and more consistent impact on improving the lives of our citizens and ensuring that we do not leave anyone behind. We recommit ourselves as SAI South Africa to continue with the resolutions and the objectives that we have set for ourselves as a collective during the tenure of Brazil and of my colleagues before them. Thank you once again to SAI Brazil for your sterling leadership and to the collective of the SAI community, the SAI20 community, for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your inspiring words, Dr. Sakani Maluleke. And dear colleagues, we will now hear the 2 minutes opening remarks from the Supreme Audit Institutions of the member countries of the SAI20 in alphabetical order. So I now have the pleasure to pass the floor to SAI China, Mr. Wang Beiqian, please.
尊敬的丹斯塔院长、各位同事，很高兴来到巴西贝伦参加省220负责人第3次会议。
Dear Mr. Dantas, President of TCU, dear colleagues, it is my pleasure to be here in Belém, Brazil, to attend the 3rd SAI20 Summit.
侯凯省议长因工作原因不能出席本次会议，他委托我向各位转达热情的问候。
Mr. Hokai, Auditor General of China, is unable to attend this meeting, and he has entrusted me to convey his warm regards to all of you.
我仅代表中国审计署向布鲁诺·丹塔斯院长和巴西审计法院为此次会议顺利召开做出的周到安排，表示衷心的感谢和高度赞赏。
On behalf of the National Audit Office of China, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and high appreciation to President Dantas and TCU, and for your warm greeting, for the hospitality and thoughtful arrangement you made to this meeting.
本次会议所涉及的主题，无论是消除贫困，还是应对气候变化、促进能源转型，都是2030年可持续发展议程的核心目标。
The themes covered by this summit, be it poverty eradication, climate change, or energy transition, are all core objectives of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.
中方高度重视审计20的合作，支持主席巴西审计法院设定的有关主题，愿同各方加强沟通协调，聚焦发展议题，取得更多积极成果，发挥最高审计机关的独特作用，为促进世界经济增长、全球可持续发展做出应有的贡献。
China attaches great importance to cooperation within SAI20, supports the themes set by TCU as the SAI20 chair, and is willing to strengthen communication and coordination with all parties, focus on development issues, achieve more positive results, play the unique role as SAIs, and make due contribution to the promotion of world economic growth and global sustainable development.
近年来，中国审计机关深入关注扶贫和能源转型主题，开展了大量工作，如组织各级审计机关持续开展扶贫审计，开展对可再生能源发电相关政策和资金情况的专项审计等等，取得良好的成效，获得全社会的广泛认可。
In recent years, China has paid close attention to those themes and carried out relevant audits, including organizing poverty alleviation audits at all government levels and carrying out special audits of poverty implementation and funds related to renewable energy power generation, which have achieved good results and gained wide recognition from the public.
与会各国在相关领域也积累了许多很好的经验，我们愿意与各国审计机关加强交流，相互学习，共同提高。
We know that fellow SAI20 SAIs have also have many good experiences in these areas. We're willing to strengthen exchanges with various SAIs, learn from each other, and improve together.
最后，预示本次会议取得圆满成功。谢谢。
Finally, I wish this meeting every success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benkiang. I now kindly pass the floor to SAI Germany, Mr. Bernhard Ehrmann.
Thank you very much, distinguished Minister Dantas, esteemed colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank Minister Dantas and the TCU for hosting our meeting in the beautiful city of Belém. and the SAI20 team for their excellent preparation and organization of the SAI20 engagement process. Thanks to the SAI20 team and all of our contributions, we arrived here with a well-worded final communique. The communique provides G20 governments with clear recommendations on reducing hunger and poverty, as well as enhancing their climate action with a special focus on promoting the much-needed transition towards clean energies. In particularly, I appreciate the emphasis that simply increasing funding is not enough. It is crucial to ensure effective use of funds to make a meaningful impact. To underscore this, on international climate finance, the German federal government alone spends consistently more than 5 billion euros a year. With regard to hunger and poverty reduction, Germany made 34 billion euros available to support developing countries in the last year. In our performance audits, however, we found that the impact of funds on climate action and energy transition remains unclear, and internationally and domestically, it's the same way. Similarly, in our audits of development aid measures and of, for example, the activities of the UN entities, we found that it can be difficult to make efficient use of rapidly increased funding in challenging environments. Therefore, we are convinced that with a strong focus on performance audits, SAIs can contribute to the effective use of funds. Also, I'm fond of our recommendations to not only develop and implement strategies based on clear and measurable goals, but also to pursue an internationally shared approach. From my view, this international cross-cutting perspective forms a key strength of SAI20. While I would thus like to applaud Minister Dantas, the TCU, and all those involved on what we have achieved so far, I also would like to emphasize 2 points from the perspective of the German SAI. With recommending coordinated international action on global challenges, our communique aims to improving our rules-based international order. Yet that rules-based order is under pressure that impacts our work. Also, our communique forms a single, however important step in a broader endeavor. I'm convinced that SAIs, as guardians of accountability, make essential contributions to addressing the global challenges we are facing. We should encourage ourselves to continue our joint efforts to hold governments accountable and provide them with evidence-based advice. It is my conviction, the more we root our recommendations in audit findings, the more impact SAI20 can make. Concluding, I look forward to adopt the communique as well as to our future collaboration within SAI20 and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eman. It is a great honor to see our SAI20 community growing and gathering this year, SAI Germany, with us. Now, I want to pass the floor to the pioneer of this engagement group, Dr. Isma Yatun from SAI Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Excellency, Mr. Bruno Dantas, President of Brazil Federal Court of Accounts, Excellencies, Head of Supreme Audit Institution, members of SAI20, and guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank and congratulate the Brazil Federal Court of Accounts as the chair of SAI20 for hosting SAI20 Summit. Our presence here today reflects our shared commitment to promoting the transparency and accountability of G20 governments, while the summit's outcomes will significantly benefit not only the SAI20 forum, but also the global community. Also, With the presence of upcoming INTOSAI chairs, SAI Egypt and SAI Indonesia, I would like to underscore the significance of TCU's initiative to voice out the SAI20 outcome within the INTOSAI community. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this year we commend Brazil's focus on climate finance and the fight against hunger and poverty, which are crucial to achieving the SDGs. SAIs should play a central role by ensuring the accountability and transparency of climate change initiatives. Our oversight function will improve governance and ensure the achievement to targeted outcome in the fight against hunger and poverty. Ultimately, together, let us move forward with a renewed commitment to our shared goals, knowing that our collective efforts will pave the way for a sustainable and resilient future. Thank you for your attention and dedication to this crucial cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isma Yatun. Now I want to pass the floor to SAI Republic of Korea, Mr. Jae Che.
Honorable Minister Bruno Dantas, President of the Federal Court of Account of Brazil and Chair of SAI20, distinguished head of G20 SAIs. It's my privilege to have this valuable opportunity to meet the heads of G20 SAIs and to discuss and endorse the SAI20 communique, which effectively conveys the message of the SAI20 initiative in this beautiful city of Belém, Brazil. Let me begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to the SAI of Brazil for their tremendous efforts in organizing this event and for the warm hospitality extended to our delegation. I also thank the head of G20 SAIs for their leadership and insights in promoting climate finance and the fight against poverty and hunger as the two priority areas for this SAI20 Summit. Selecting these two themes as the priority areas for this SAI20 Summit is both timely and meaningful because they are directly linked to our shared future. As is now apparent globally, the impact of climate change now poses a significant threat to people's lives, particularly affecting socially disadvantaged groups the most. Poverty is a critical issue as with the COVID-19 pandemic, healthcare systems have broken down and supply chains have suffered gaps, leading to the exacerbation of social inequality. This is time for us to take action, and our collective effort is more important than ever before. Korea is one of the few countries in the world that successfully transitions from a poverty-ridden, war-torn nation to a developed one in the 20th century. Leveraging our development experience and expertise, we are now on a path to support other countries on their path to economic growth. Looking ahead, the SAI of Korea will actively participate in promoting climate finance and combating poverty and hunger with unwavering support. Once again, I'd like to extend my gratitude to all the participating heads of G20 SAIs for their contribution. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Che, for your words. Now I kindly pass the floor to SAI Saudi Arabia, His Excellency Dr. Hussein Al-Angari.
Thank you, Chair. Your Excellency, Minister Bruno Dantas, Excellencies, Head of SAI delegations, ladies and gentlemen, it is of great honor to attend this meeting. And firstly, I would like to thank you, Minister Dantas, and your dedicated staff for the well preparation of this meeting and your kind and warm hospitality during our stay in Belém. As for my remarks on the themes, I want to shed light on the launch of Saudi Arabia Vision 2030 in 2016. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has taken decisive steps towards a more sustainable future. Introduced in 2021, the Saudi Green Initiative unite environmental protection, energy transition, and sustainability programs with the overreaching aims of setting and reducing emissions, increasing afforestation, land restoration, and protecting the kingdom's land and seas. In addition, the Middle East Green Initiative, MGI, is a regional effort led by Saudi Arabia to mitigate the impact of carbon emissions of the region and to collaborate to meet global climate targets. From the perspective of economic and social development, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has developed social security system program to achieve social protection objectives. These include cash support, rehabilitation, training, and the provision of appropriate job opportunities to help the neediest citizen improve their social and economic aspects. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has not neglected its contribution to providing international social and economic aid. The King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center, KS Relief, was established and has significantly impacted global humanitarian efforts. Since its establishment, KS Relief has provided aid to millions of people in over 80 countries, addressing critical needs such as food security, health services, education, and shelter. KS Relief has implemented thousands of projects responding to crises caused by conflicts, natural disaster, and pandemics. Its efforts has been instrumental in alleviating suffering and improving the quality of life for vulnerable populations worldwide. Given the importance of the role of that Supreme Audit Institutions can play to ensure that these government initiatives and projects related to sustainable and social development achieve their goals efficiently and effectively, we, as head of Supreme Audit Institutions, recommit ourselves to ensuring transparency, accountability, efficiency, and good governance for these type of initiatives and programs. These principles are our guiding lights in our collective efforts to combat inequality, poverty, hunger, and the adverse effects of climate change. Finally, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Federal Court of Accounts of Brazil for hosting the third SAI20 Summit during Brazil's G20 presidency. This summit is a testament of our collective commitment to serve as a platform for enhancing accountability and transparency. We eagerly anticipate supporting the Audit General of South Africa as the upcoming chair of SAI20 in 2025 and wish them success in their presidency. Thank you, Your Excellencies, for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Alangari, for your words. And I must say, it is both an honor and a privilege for this engagement group to have here in this session the next leaders of Intosai for the next 10 years. We have here Mr. Badawi from SAI Egypt. We have here Dr. Isma from SAI Indonesia. And we have here Dr. Alangari from SAI Saudi Arabia, who will chair Intosai in 2025, 2028, and 2031. Dear colleagues, after the break, we will have the opportunity to listen to the countries invited by the G20, our colleagues from SAI Angola, SAI Egypt, SAI Poland, SAI Portugal, and SAI United Arab Emirates. And then we will hear the guests from SAI Brazil that are also here, SAI Azerbaijan, SAI Ecuador, SAI Guinea-Bissau, SAI Maldives, and SAI São Tomé e Príncipe. We will stop now for lunch and return at 2:15. After lunch, we will continue to hear the statements of all invited SAIs. Thank you so much, and see you after lunch.